Playwright Trace Viewer is a GUI tool that lets you explore the recorded traces of your test. Now, we will see how to enable the traces and what are the various options available in traces. If I go back, you will be seeing the test is running one more time. Why, Vignesh, it's running one more time? Because we have enabled retry to be 1. So when the test fails, it will automatically retry one more time. Similarly, traces on is exactly opposite to off. It will produce traces for me for all of them. What is meant by that? When the test passes, it will produce a trace. When the test fails, it will produce a trace. When the test retries, it will produce a trace. So for all the instances, it will give me the trace. So here in the report, we should be seeing the status to be passed, but also we should be seeing the traces. Why? Because the traces value is on in the playwright config.ts. So by default, you can have any values in your playwright config.ts, but here you can change the value in your runtime and it will listen only to the runtime. How to set the trace programmatically. Once the test execution completes, what I should be seeing is I should be seeing a new trace here in my root folder, not in the test results folder, but in the root folder. The next topic is how to enable screenshots and videos in Playwright. The screenshots will be taken at the point where the test failure happened. In this case, it will be taken in the login page. Hello everyone, welcome to Lambda Test. I'm your instructor Vignesh. This is a video as part of the Playwright with TypeScript playlist. In this video, we will see in detail about trace viewers in Playwright. So these are the agendas which we are going to see as part of this video. First, we will start with a quick introduction about what is trace viewer. Then we will learn how to enable the traces. Also, what are the different ways to open the trace viewer. We will also learn what are the different options available in trace viewer. Also, how to edit the trace viewer options via the command line. Next, we will see how to set the tracing programmatically and not via the configuration files. And last, we will see how to capture the screenshots and record the videos in Playwright. First, let us understand what is Trace Viewer. Playwright Trace Viewer is a GUI tool that lets you explore the recorded traces of your test. So what it means by that? Trace Viewer is nothing but a GUI or like a web page where in that you can see all the traces which are captured during the execution. Now you can ask me a question, Vignesh, what are the traces and what it gets captured during the execution? Meaning we can go back and forward through each of the actions of our test and we can see visually what happened during that section. What it means by that? For example, when a test executes and I want to know what are the step-by-step process it done. For example, it went to the login page, it clicked on the login button, it entered the username like that. If I want to see all the step-by-step process, I can easily see that in the trace viewer. Now we will see how to enable the traces and what are the various options available in traces. I have created a new project called as Trace Viewer and I have installed the Playwright and also I have did the configuration for integrating with Lambda Test. All this has been explained in detail on the previous video. Please go and have a look if you don't know what these are. And also all the codes which I'm writing as part of this video will be pushed into the GitHub so you can easily take it from there. So here what I have done is I have reused the same login test what we have captured from our previous video via code generation. So I'm going to reuse the same test here. Now, first what I'm going to do, let me go into the playwright config.ts and if I scroll down slowly, I should be seeing a section called trace. And here you can see the trace is being enabled for the option which is on first retry. What it means by that? Here it clearly mentioned as collect trace when retrying the failed test. So the default configuration is the traces will be collected on the retry. When means whenever the test fails, the test will automatically try to retry the test one more time, like it will rerun one more time, or that particular time the traces will be enabled. There are other more options available, but let us go with the default one for now. So here the trace has been set to as default as on first retry. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to scroll above and here you can see an option called retries and by default it is configured to process.env.ci question mark 20, which means it's going to get the value of the retry from the runtime environmental variable For now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to remove it and I'm going to hard code it with 1, which means it have to retry one time. Now, as I mentioned, retry will run only when there is a failure. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to login testspec.ts, and here what I'm going to do, I'm going to purposefully make a failure. How will I do that? For example, let's say instead of the placeholder to be password, I'm just entering as password Vignesh. Technically, there is no such locator available, so which the test will be failing. So now when the test fails, it will retry the test once again, and during the retry it will enable the traces. So let us see if it's enabling or not. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this test here, npm run win11 chrome. I'm just going with the win11 which is Windows 11 Chrome, but as I mentioned in the previous video, we have already configured it with different types of browsers and different types of OS available in Lambda test. Whatever the version suitable for you, you can go with it. And I'm clicking on enter. So now this will run the test in the Lambda test server, and the test will fail because we mandatorily made it fail. So let us go to the Lambda test server or the dashboard, and let us see if the test execution starts, and the test should be failing this time. But when it's failing, we also need to see the retry mechanism, and in the retry also it will fail because technically there is no such locator as password Vignesh. So both the times the test is going to fail. But what we are intended to look for is we have to see if it triggers the traces, which means we will see if it shows the traces for us. So let us wait until the test starts. So you can see the test has started now. So if I go back to the dashboard, I should be seeing a new build here with the name Chrome, and it should be giving me the test case name. In this case, you can see it is giving me Chrome lambda test login test, and the file name is login testspec.ts because this is the file name here. So now we will know the test will fail, so we don't need to worry about that much. So let us wait until the test fails here. It will wait for 30 seconds to find that particular locator which is password. When it can't find that locator, the test will be failing. You can see the test is marked as failed here as we expected, and if I scroll down, you can see, if I zoom in, Lambda test has given a clear log saying that it is trying to find the locator with password Vignesh, but technically there is no such locator, so the test will be failed. If I go back, you will be seeing the test is running one more time. Why Vignesh it's running one more time? Because we have enabled retry to be 1. So when the test fails, it will automatically retry one more time, and even in the retry the test will fail, which we know already. So let us wait until the test fails, and once the test finished failing, it will automatically open the default Playwright HTML report for us, where we can see the traces. So here you can see it's running 2/1, which means the second time it's going to execute, and you can see even this time it got failed, and it is serving me the report. So in the report we will be seeing the traces. So let us wait until the report is open. So here you can see the report opens, and it says test timeout 30 seconds exceeded, which means within 30 seconds it couldn't able to find this password Vignesh locator. And if I scroll down, I don't see the traces here. Why? Because this is the first execution. Here you can see it's run, but when I click on the retry one, which is the retried phase, if I scroll down, you can see it clearly says traces. Why? Because we have enabled traces only for retry. And now if I click on it, I should be seeing the traces opening here automatically. So this is what it means as traces. So let me walk you through what are the each phases here in the traces. So first here in the top, it's called as the DOM snapshots, or it's called screenshots. What it means by that, if I mouse over, you can see until 2 seconds it couldn't able to create a new page. So here you can see, let me zoom in, I'm not sure how clear it is, but here you can see first it opens the page and then it enters the value. So all of them are being mentioned as a screenshot. So here when I do it slowly, and the corresponding file changes should happen below. So here, let me refresh the traces once again. So here, just focus on this particular page. So let me try to put this into a new tab so that it's very visible for us. So this is the website which it is trying to do, and based on the action what I'm doing, for example, here when I'm clicking on this, it is trying to enter the email, and here it will be trying to enter the password. So if I zoom in, you can see it already has entered the email, but it is trying to enter the password. That's where it is giving us the issue. So here it will clearly show all the screenshots. Similarly, another major advantage in the traces is that here it will clearly show us what all the steps it done. So here you can see it created a new context, it created a new page. All these are browser actions done by the Playwright. You can see it is going to the email address field and it enters the email address to be as this. So it entered the value in the email address, and then it is trying to look for the placeholder 𝐕𝐢𝐠𝐬𝐡 where it can't able to find it. If I scroll down, it also has the DOM snapshots, which is it will give us the error from the website or from the browser, and here it clearly says the time exceeded, and this is the reason for exceeded. So having these traces will help us a lot in terms of debugging. So I've shown you how to open the traces from the report. Now let us see if I go back to the Playwright. So here if I go back to the playwright config.ts, here we have marked the retrace to be 1 and we have marked the trace to be on first retry. As I mentioned, there are also multiple other options available. So if I remove this and if I put single quotes, I should be seeing all the remaining options. I'm not going to enable all those options, but I will explain clearly what each option is. So traces off, which means if I set it to be off, even if the test is passing or if the test is failing, irrespective of the status of the test, it will never produce the traces for me. That is what traces off is. Similarly, traces on is exactly opposite to off. It will produce traces for me for all of them. What is meant by that? When the test passes, it will produce a trace. When the test fails, it will produce a trace. When the test retries, it will produce a trace. So for all the instances, it will give me the trace. Similarly, it has on all retries, which means for all the retries, let's say my retry count is 2. So it will generate the traces for all the retries. On first retry is the option which we have seen now, which means only for the first retry, it will enable the trace. Similarly, we have one for retain on failure. So what it means by that? There is a difference between failure versus retry. So when the test failed for the first time, it will trigger the retry. But for the failed part, it will not have any traces. So what it means by that? If I go back to the report, here in the report, you can see that we have two tabs. One is the run and one is the retry. You remember it had two tabs. Let me refresh it once again. I'm not sure why the report is not showing, but if you remember, it had two tabs, a run and retry. So for the run tab, we didn't see any traces. The reason is because we didn't ask it to retain for failures. So if you want, you can retain for failures too. Similarly, you can retain on first failure. Only for the first failure, it will retain, not for the other failures. Similarly, retry with trace, which means this will have traces for all the retries. So it depends on your use case, you can have the retry for anyone. So let's say I'm going to show one option, but remaining option you can explore on your own. So for example, let's say I'm setting the traces to be on. What I'm going to do, I'm going to revert back this locator. So I'm keeping the valid locator and I'm going to run the test. Now if I run the test, even though the test passes, technically the test will pass here, but still we will get the traces because of the option I have enabled here, which is traces on, which means it will enable trace for all the scenarios: pass, failure, skip, retry. For all these scenarios, we should be getting traces. So let us wait until the test is finished execution, then we'll see if the traces is enabled or not. So let us wait until the execution starts. So let me go back to the Lambda test and see if the execution is started. So let me go to the Lambda test website. The test didn't start it yet, so let us wait until the test starts. Once the test starts, the test will be passing now because we have asked it to enable the tracing. So the test should be passing and the tracing should be enabled. So you can see the test is getting started. If I go back to the Lambda test, I should be seeing a new build, or I guess the same build will be running now because the name matches, right? Because the new build will generate only for a new test with a new browser, but in this case, I'm rerunning the same test, right? So that same test will be running this time. The test will be passing this case because there is no much thing as a failure, but still we should be getting the traces. That's what it is important. So let us wait until the test finishes. So if I go back to the Visual Studio Code, you can see the test got passed, And here if I run this command, which is npx playwright show report, this is basically to show the report for us, which means to see the report in the browser. So let us wait until it opens the report. So here in the report, we should be seeing the status to be passed, but also we should be seeing the traces. Why? Because the traces value is on in the playwright config.ts. So it is serving the report here. Yeah, so it started with the report. So here you can see the test is passed. When I expand this test, here if I go below, you can see it has the traces. Why, Vignesh, it has the traces? Because the value was set to be on. So this is how we can change the value of traces how we wanted to. So now, until now, we are opening the traces only by opening the report and then going to the traces tab. Is this the only way to open the report? Obviously not. There are two more ways we can open the report directly open the traces directly without depending on report. So let me show you both the ways. The first way is that, let me clear the console. The first way to get the traces is if you go into the test results folder, and let me expand this window, and here you can see a folder with our test case name followed by the browser name and all those things. If I expand it, you can see it has the traces inside. So technically the report also is opening this zip file only. So we can also open it directly. So how to open that? Just write the command, which is npx, it's npx playwright show. Instead of report, we have to say show trace. And what we have to do is we have to feed the path of the trace. So let me copy this, and I can put the copy relative path, and I can paste it over here. And make sure if you are using Windows, you have to pass the /, not the /. If you are using Mac, by default it will come with the / only. If I click on enter, this will open the trace directly in my browser without even need to open the report. So that's the easy way to open the report for us. So let us wait until the report opens in the browser. This is way one. Also, I will show you what is the other easy way to open the report. So this should open the report in my browser. So here you can see it is opening the Chromium browser. And if I expand this tab, this should be having the Playwright Trace Viewer, and it shows the same trace here. In this case, the test got passed, so that's the reason we are just getting no errors and nothing. But in case if you have a failures, it will show the failures. So this is way one, how we can open the traces. Now I'll show you the way two. The way two is nothing much complex. What you have to do is you have to go to this website, which is traces.playwright.dev. So let me zoom in for you to note down the URL. So the URL is trace.playwright.dev. So here if I go into this website, you can see it is asking me to select the files or drag and drop the trace to load. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drag and drop, or you can even select the file, depends on your use case. So I'm just going to drag and drop the zip file here. Once I drop the zip file, it will automatically open the trace for me the same way how we have seen it open in the previous case. I guess I didn't drop it correctly, so let me drop in one more time. Yeah. I guess I'm not dragging and dropping it correctly, or there is some issue in the site. No worries. Let me click on select files, and I'll select the traces manually. So let me go back to the folder. So trace viewer. So within that, we are under the trace viewer project. So under the test results, under the folder, I'm going to select the traces. It's a zip file. So I'm going to click on open. So you can see now it opens the same trace over here. So we have three ways to view the trace. One is we go inside the report, we can see the traces. The second way is you can run the command npx playwright show trace, with which you can open the traces. And the last way is you can go to trace.playwright.dev website, and you can drag and drop your trace zip file, which will automatically open the traces for you. Next, we will see how to change the value of the traces in the command line. What it means by that. For example, let's say if I'm keeping the value of the traces to be off like this, But when I'm running the test, I can pass the traces value to be on or off. What it means by that, if I write the command npx playwright test, now if I hit on enter, you know that it will run all the tests here. But here I can pass a flag which is hyphen hyphen trace, and here I can pass the option. So even though the value I have mentioned here is off, but now if I pass the command to be on, and now if I hit on enter, the value will be overridden as on. Why? Because the CLI or the command line prompt takes the preference or the priority over the playwright config.ts. So by default, you can have any values in your playwright config.ts, but here you can change the value in your runtime and it will listen only to the runtime. So this is how you will add the values or change the trace values in your command line prompt. The last topic is how to set the trace programmatically. Vignesh, what it means by set the trace programmatically? For instance, let's say I'm having the value of traces as off or even with the default one on first retry. But let's say I have a test with me where I wanted the trace to be enabled only for that particular test. Imagine, like in this case, I'm having only one test spec file. Imagine I'm having 100 test spec files. I don't want the traces for all those 99, but I wanted the trace to be enabled only for one file so that I can debug the test and I can make sure if I'm fixing the test properly. So instead of just for getting the traces for one file, I don't need to go and change the value of traces to be on for the playwright config.ts, which will reflect in all the files. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to enable the traces from the test cases directly. So let us see how to do that. So to do that, what we have to do, we just need to write 2 lines of code, which is pretty simple. So here what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put this line as a first step in my test, which is await context.tracing.start, and within the bracket I'm passing the options snapshots true and screenshots true. I'm getting error here for context because here along with the page I just need to pass the context also. That's it. So you can see the error gone. So this is the first step which you need to add it for enabling the traces, where basically we are starting the trace here by using context.tracing.start. And at the end, after the test finishes, I need to stop the trace. So I'm saying await context.tracing.stop, and we need to pass the path where the trace zip to be generated. So here I'm saying go to the default path and generate it with the name test1.trace_zip. So I'm just giving a different zip file name. So now if I run this test, even though the config file says off, but still when I run this test, it will enable the trace for me because I have enabled the trace specifically for this test programmatically, which means from the test level. So let me run this test quickly. Npm run win11 chrome, and let us wait until the test execution completes. Once the test execution completes, what I should be seeing is I should be seeing a new trace here in my root folder, not in the test results folder, but in the root folder. Why? Because I have mentioned the path to be the root folder. So let us wait until the test execution completes and let us see if the trace is being generated in the root folder. Until the execution is completed, I want to give one more important point when you are writing the traces programmatically or from the test level. The difference between running the or enabling the traces programmatically versus the config file is when you enable it from the config file, even when the test pass or the test fails, you will be getting the traces. But when you enable it via the programmatically, you will be getting the traces only if the test passes. If your test is failing, you will not get the traces. You can ask me a question, why Vignesh, why is happening so? If you understand it from a test perspective, you are placing this line as the last line among all your steps of your test. Imagine, let's say your test fails in this particular step. When the test fails in this particular step, the entire test execution will be aborted. So when the entire test execution is being aborted, all the lines below to that will not be executed. So here you're asking the test to stop the tracing, which will never be called on. That is the reason it is not very advisable to use it in this fashion. But for some local debugging, if you wanted to run and check it only for locally, you can try with this option, but it will work only if the test passes. If the test fails, you will not get any traces. So here you can see the test got passed, and you can see I got the traces zip file. I'm not going to open the traces because we already learned how to open it, but here we understood that when the traces are being enabled from the test level, it will be giving like this. So let me delete this and let me run the test again. Before running the test, what I'm going to do, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to purposefully fail this test. Now if I run this test again, I will not be getting any traces because of the point which I just explained a minute ago. When the test fails and if you enable the traces locally, which means from the test level, and if the test fails, you will not get the traces because this line itself will not be executed. So now the test will fail, which is fine. You will not get the traces from the report. Why? Because the configuration which we have passed here is traces to be off, and even the traces which we enable from here also will not be calling. That is the reason you will not be getting any traces for this particular execution. So always be mindful that whenever you are enabling the tracing, if you are enabling it locally from the test level, make sure your test is passing. Only when your test is passing, you will get the traces. If your test is failing, you will not get the traces. So I personally always suggest to go with the playwright config.ts and use the option either as on first retry or retain on failure is much better option. But don't go with on by default one because you don't need the traces for a past scenario. Only for the failed scenario you will need the traces, not for the past cases. So in this case, it's going to run the test. I guess it is going to run the retry also because we have enabled the retries, which is fine. It's okay. It's going to run the test. It will fail and it will retry one more time. So after it finished retrying, technically on both the attempts it's going to fail, but we will not see any traces generated in this root folder. Similarly, in the report which is getting opened also will not have any traces. So let us confirm that and before proceeding to the last topic. So let us wait until the execution completes and then we can go for the next topic to learn for. So it is still executing because I guess it is waiting for the default timeout of 30 seconds. So 30 seconds is the default wait for the playwright to find an element. So you can see the test got failed and it is opening me the report. So if I go into either of the tabs in the report, for the run tab 2, I will not be seeing any traces. Similarly, I go to the retry tab. Again, here also I'll not be getting any traces. Why? Because for the point which I mentioned earlier. And also I'm not getting any traces here in the root folder, neither I'm getting any traces from the test results folder too. So this is how you will enable the traces, and these are the different options to enable them and open the traces in different way. Now the next topic is how to enable screenshots and videos in Playwright. Now if you take other tools such as let's say Selenium or something like that, if you wanted to get a screenshots for a failure or you wanted to get a video recording for the test execution, you have to write like minimum 50 lines of code to get it enabled in your framework. But with Playwright, everything has already been ready. You just need to turn it on or turn it off. That's it. So how to do that? If I go to playwright config.ts, again as I mentioned, all of those configurations are under playwright config only, and I need to scroll down to the use section. So after the traces, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put an enter and I'm going to type as screenshots. So here you can see it's giving me a suggestion for screenshot. If I go near to that screenshot, here you can see VS Code is giving me all the possible options, whether to automatically capture a screenshot after each test result. So the default value is off. So when you don't pass anything, the defaultly it will not take any screenshots. The remaining two options are you have on, which means it will take the screenshots for all the tests, or the most widely used is on, only on failure. So only for the failure it will take the screenshots. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pass the same option, which is only on failure. Similarly, I'm also going to enable the video. So how to enable the video? Just type the video here, and here you will be seeing the different options the video has. So the video has 4 options: off, on, retain on failure, and on first retry. So what are the different options are? The default value of the video is off, which means you will never get a video by default from your Playwright, but you can turn it on so that you can get all the recordings of all your test blocks. Similarly, you can get the video only for your failure. Similarly, you can get your video only for your first retry. Again, in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to keep the option retain on failure because I'm going the same option as with screenshot. So what I'm going to do before I'm running this test, I'm going to comment out this retry. I don't want it to run one more time. Now let me run the test. So I know already the test will fail, but this time when the test fails, I should be getting a screenshot and a video added to my repository so that I can view the screenshots as well as in this video, and both the screenshot and video will be added automatically to the Playwright HTML report. We can also see it in the repository, but also we can see it from the report also. So let us wait until the test fails. We know the test will fail. Why? Because we have made the locator to be a different one. So the test will fail, and also we should be seeing the screenshot as well as the video as part of this repository. So let us wait until the execution fails. So we can see the execution is getting started. So if I go back to the Lambda test dashboard, I should be seeing the test should be starting now, and the test will fail again. So once the test fails, I should be getting the report. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to close this other reports which we opened so far so that we don't have it to be a messy one. And let me go back to the dashboard. So you can see the test is executing. The test will fail now as mentioned, but we should be getting the report, and in the report we should be seeing the screenshots and the video. The screenshots will be taken at the point where the test failure happened. In this case, it will be taken in the login page because it couldn't able to find any password with the locator, which is password 𝐕𝐢𝐠𝐬𝐴. And similarly, it should record the entire video. What it means by entire video: opening the browser, going to the website, entering the username, entering the password. So that entire journey will be mentioned in the video. So let us wait until it opens the folder and video. So here you can see that it's starting to open the starting to open the report. So here it has all the error messages, but if I scroll down, you will see something called here as screenshots. If I click on it, you can see it took a perfect screenshots on the place where it actually failed. So it entered the email, but it is not entering the password because technically the locator is having some issue. So if I go back and if I scroll down, you can see it also has an option of the video. So if I scroll down, you can see it has an option of video. If I play the video, I should be seeing the entire flow, which means it should start the browser, go to the website, and do all those operations. So let me fast forward it a bit because it is trying to go to the website. So I guess the video is not captured it fully. Like maybe there is some glitch in this case. When I'm rerunning it, it will work fine. But we have understood how to enable the screenshots and how to enable the video in the Playwright. I hope this video is very helpful for you and made you understand what is traces and what are the different options in traces, and also we learned how to capture the screenshots and the video. Thanks for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one.